Very good morning to you all. Today we will continue the previous lecture relating to post-auditing capital projects. Here the first point is related the advantages of post-auditing capital projects. It has a number of advantages. The advantages of post-auditing are that it should improve the quality of decision making, improve the quality of decision-making process. How? By providing a mechanism whereby past experience can be made readily available to decision makers. Mechanism whereby past experience can be made available to decision makers to help them in making decisions with high quality. The second point, the second advantage, encourage greater realism in project appraisal. In the evaluation process, encourage realism. Reality will depend on reality. How? By providing a mechanism whereby past inaccuracy in forecasting are made public. So we will depend on reality in making the project appraisal. Thirdly, provide a means of improving control mechanism. Improving control mechanism by performing post-audit capital project. How? By formally highlighting areas where weaknesses have caused problems. Highlighting. Take into consideration areas where weakness have caused problems. Fourthly, enable the speedy modification of underperforming, overperforming projects by identifying reasons for the under or over performance. Of course, underperforming means that actual figures is under the projected figures, and overperforming projects where actual results over projected figures. Fifthly, increase the frequency of project termination for bad projects. For bad projects, bad experience, when actual performance or actual results under the projected figures. Increase the frequency of project terminations for bad projects by speedily identifying adverse environmental changes. Lastly, highlight reasons for successful projects which may be important in achieving greater benefits from future projects. So, the last advantage of post-completion audit is to highlight, is to concentrate, is to focus on reasons for successful projects, which may be important in achieving greater benefits from future projects. So we have 6 advantages of post-completion audit. The advantages of post-auditing capital project have 6 advantages. Improve the quality of decision making, encourage greater realism in project appraisal, provide a means of improving control mechanism, enable the speedy modification of underperforming or overperforming projects, increase the frequency of project termination for bad projects, And we mentioned that bad projects when actual figures is under, or actual figures are under a projected figures. Lastly, highlight reasons for successful projects which may be important in achieving greater benefits from future projects. The second main point here is the design of post-auditing capital projects. When the top management asks you to design a new post-auditing capital projects, what are you going to do to design a new post-auditing capital project system? A project's life is divided into three phases: the decision, the commissioning, and the implementation phase or stage. So the project's life is divided into three stages: the decision stage, commissioning stage, and implementation stage. The decision stage related to provide information to make a decision, to help decision makers to make a decision to accept or reject the proposal, and the commissioning stage related to construct the project, and lastly implementation stage when the project starts to provide its products to the market and to achieve benefits. So when we design post-auditing capital projects, we must take into consideration these three stages. The first stage, the decision phase, covers the search for business opportunity, the identification of opportunities compatible with the strategic plan of the business. Thirdly, the informal comparison and ranking of alternatives proposals. Fourthly, the preparation of an outline proposal for approval prior to full-scale appraisal. Fifthly, the preparation of a detailed project proposal. And lastly, the appraisal of a project leading to its acceptance or rejection. These are 6 stages or sub-stages related to decision stage. The decision stage or the decision phase covers these 6 sub-stages. Companies may consider the decision process in a wider context. Rather than looking at an individual project, this aspect of the decision audit would take a number of projects and would consider whether the decision-making procedures of the company were leading to successful outcome in general. يبقى companies may take into consideration the decision process in a wider context, not in a narrow context, in a wider context. Rather than concentrate on an individual project, we will take into consideration the decision-making procedures for the company for a number of projects. So, rather than looking at an individual project, this aspect of the decision audit, when we perform auditing on the decision stage, would take a number of projects and would consider whether the decision-making procedures of the company were leading to successful outcome in general. Whilst the decision phase precedes commissioning and implementation in the chronology of project events. So, from a chronological perspective, firstly, the first stage is decision making, then commissioning, and lastly implementation. So, whilst the decision phase precedes commissioning and implementation in the chronology of project events, for purposes of post-auditing, it's usually the last phase considered. The commissioning and implementation audit may benefit the individual project under review as well as later projects, whilst a decision audit benefits only subsequent project. A decision audit benefits only subsequent projects. Also, when we speak about commissioning stage audit, we need to differentiate between two cases. The first case is regarding monitoring, and the second case is regarding commissioning post-audit. What are the difference between monitoring as a tool of audit, as a tool to monitor commissioning phase, and commissioning post-audit? This is our topic here. Monitoring and commissioning post-audit. There are 4 points that can we use to make a comparison between monitoring and commissioning post-audit. Firstly, frequency. Monitoring is done weekly or monthly. On the other hand, commissioning post-audit is performed biannually, semi-annually. Second point is related to orientation. Monitoring is oriented to detailed projects. On the other hand, commissioning post-audit is oriented to identify and to consider why deviations to plan are occurring. Why deviations, why variants to plan are occurring. So we concentrate on to learn lessons. Personal, the third point, personal. Monitoring carried out by project manager or accounting staff. By project manager or an accounting staff. On the other hand, commissioning post-audit carried out by an independent post-audit team. Independent post-audit teamwork. Post-audit will be performed by a team. But in monitoring carried out by a project manager or accounting staff. But commissioning post-audit will be performed by a teamwork from different disciplines: technical, engineering, marketing, environmental, many different parties. The last point to differentiate between monitoring and commissioning post-audit is the purpose. The purpose of monitoring is to keep project on schedule and within budget limits. On the other hand, commissioning post-audit aims to learn lessons for the future, to aid future projects. We learn lessons, we create experience to aid future projects. The commissioning phase is the incurring of the capital expenditure to the point where the project starts its planned function. This phase is important in projects which involve the creation of physical assets, for instance, the building of new factory. So one instance of commissioning phase is to construct physical assets, like build, like construct a new building, a new factory. So it needs more time rather than to buy or purchase an equipment. Here, commissioning stage is the incurring of the capital expenditure, incurring the capital expenditure to the point where the project starts its planned function. This stage is important in projects which involve the creation of physical assets, for instance, the building of new factory. Where the commissioning period is likely to extend beyond 6 to 12 months, then interim post-audit report may be produced, say at 6 monthly intervals. So when commissioning period is long, for 6 to 12 months or more, then we need to issue interim post-audit report. Interim post-audit report every 6-month interval. These reports should review the commissioning stage relative to the plan, focusing particular on the reason for and result of any change in the capital expenditure specification during implementation. Focus on any change in the capital expenditure specification during implementation, during constructing a building, during constructing a new factory. We need to focus on changes, reason and results of any changes in the capital expenditure specification. The audit would also consider a recommendation to abandon the project if appropriate. The comparison between monitoring and post-auditing is as follows, as we mentioned above. Here is the differentiation, the comparison between monitoring and commissioning post-audit. Both types of audit, whether monitoring or commissioning post-audit, are done during the commissioning stage. Last stage, the implementation phase. It covers the utilization of the project for its planned purpose to gain its expected benefits. يبقى implementation stage related to provide the market with our products, with our new products, to perform our new service, to gain expected benefits. A further post-audit report should be prepared around 12 months after commissioning. Post-audit report for the implementation stage should be prepared and issued around 12 months after commissioning. This may be termed the implementation audit. This audit seeks to determine whether the benefits predicted and quantified during the project appraisal are actually being achieved. So, here we will repeat this point. We are speaking about the design of post-auditing capital projects. So, firstly, we need to understand carefully the project's life, a project's life, which divided into 3 stages: the decision stage, the commissioning stage, and the implementation stage. And when we do post-audit, we will concentrate on the decision stage audit, the commissioning stage audit, post-audit, the implementation stage post-audit. We will do post-audit for each stage. Furthermore, in terms of the previous analysis of many stages of post-auditing capital project, an accountant can design a system of post-auditing capital projects as follows. So, when top management in an organization asks you to design a new post-auditing capital project system, you need to consider these 3 questions. 3 specific questions must be addressed. Which projects should be selected for post-audit? Who should carry out the post-audit? And what form should be post-audit take? So, when you are going to construct, to design a new system for post-auditing capital projects, you need to consider 3 specific questions. The first question: which projects? Are we going to take all the projects? Which projects should be selected for post-audit? The second question: who would carry out, who would implement, who should implement the post-audit? And what form should be post-audit take? Regarding the first question, which projects should be selected for post-audit? So we will not take all the projects to post-audit them. We only select 1 project, 2 projects. So the question is, which projects should be selected for post-audit? In evaluating which projects should be included in the post-audit process, the following factors should be considered. First factor: usually the most valuable lessons come from the largest projects where the organization stands to lose or gain the most money. So we will concentrate on the largest projects where the organization stands to lose or gain the most money. Therefore, large projects should always be considered for post-audit. This is the first factor here. When we speak about which project should be selected for post-audit, we will concentrate firstly on the largest projects where the organization stands to lose or gain the most money. So large projects should always be considered for post-audit. Secondly, where projects are highly unlikely to yield lessons different from those drawn from a previous post-completion audit, such projects should usually have low priority. So, projects unlikely to yield the lessons different from those drawn from a previous post-completion audit usually have low priority. We don't need to post-audit these kinds of projects. We don't need. We have already the lessons, and they don't yield new lessons different from those drawn from a previous post-completion audit. The third factor, projects of a type unlikely to be undertaken again shouldn't normally post-audited unless some part of the project is likely to be repeated. So, if the projects unlikely to be undertaken again to be repeated in the future, shouldn't normally be post-audited unless some parts of the project is likely to be repeated in the future. In such circumstances, such an audit should concentrate on those elements which will be repeated. So we concentrate only on projects or on parts that will be repeated in the future. Last factor, some projects which appear to be highly successful should be selected for post-auditing so as to pinpoint the cause of success. Some projects which appear to be highly successful should be selected for post-auditing so as to pinpoint the causes of success. In a large company, post-audit might seek to cover the following types of project each year. Here, in large organizations, post-audit might seek to cover the following types of project each year. A typical project, representative of a large proportion of the capital program. Typical project, representative, large proportion of the capital program for the organization. Secondly, a project which is large relative to the size of the organization. A project which is large relative to the size of the organization. And thirdly, a project on which either operational problems have been identified on commissioning or where costs have increased significantly. A project on which either operational problems have been identified on commissioning, there will be operational problems during the commissioning stage, or where costs have increased more than the anticipated cost, more than the projected cost, more than the budgeted cost have increased significantly. D, a project where substantial cost savings were expected. Project where substantial cost savings were expected. And a project which is likely to be repeated at some time in the future. This is the main point. This is the main aim. When a project which is likely to be repeated at some time in the future. A highly successful project also should be considered when we perform post-audit in a large organization. And finally, a project performing precisely to plan. Also, projects that are performing precisely to anticipation, to plan. The second question: who should carry out the post-audit? Who should carry out the post-audit? For very small post audits, an individual, one person may be able to carry out the work, but normally a small team, minimum 2 people, is recommended. So when we perform very small post audits, we need only one person. We need only an individual to carry out, to perform the work. But normally, a small team is recommended. Small team is recommended, which involve at least minimum 2 people. The team should have experience of the capital expenditure control system, as well as how to evaluate the technical, marketing, and financial aspects of the project. So we need a teamwork. We need individuals. We need persons from different disciplines, related to technical, marketing, financial aspects of the project. The team should also have to perform its work. The team should also have sufficient authority from top management to gain access to information required. To perform post audits. Sufficient authority to gain access to information required. A good understanding of the organization operations and its environment. The team must have good understanding. Of the organization operations, and its environment. Thirdly, the ability to communicate and to cooperate with personnel from other functions. So here soft skills play a vital role, because the teamwork need to communicate, to cooperate with personnel from other functions. Soft skills. Fourthly, the experience of past post audits available to them. This is most effectively achieved by having some continuity of team membership. Here we concentrate on experience of past post audits. So the team must perform post audit for a long period of time. The post audit team will not change as persons every 3 months or 6 months. No, it will be doing their work for a long period of time. Some continuity by having some continuity of team membership. The experience of past post audits available to them, and this experience will be achieved by having some continuity of team membership. The last question: what form should be post audit taken? What form should be post audit taken? We mentioned above that a project life cycle includes 3 stages: decision stage, commissioning stage, and implementation stage. So, what form should be post-audit taken? Post-audit will be performed during the decision stage. Post-audit will be performed during commissioning stage and during implementation stage. So we will have here decision audit, commissioning audit, and implementation audit as mentioned above. Decision audit, companies may consider the decision process in a wider context rather than looking at an individual project. This aspect of the decision audit would take a number of projects and would consider whether the decision-making procedures of the company were leading to successful outcomes in general. So we need to concentrate on a large number of projects. Whilst the decision stage precedes commissioning and implementation from the chronological project events, for purposes of post-auditing, it's usually the last phase considered as mentioned above. Commissioning audit, where the commissioning period is likely to extend beyond 6 to 12 months, then interim post-audit report may be issued, may be produced, say by a annually by 6 monthly intervals, as mentioned above. Implementation audit. The implementation post-audit includes a review of the investment decision in order to distinguish between deviation, variance resulting from inaccurate planning, and deviations resulting from inadequate commissioning and implementation. The purpose of this audit is to learn lessons. This is the main point. The main point. The purpose of this audit is to learn lessons for future projects, but the information provided may often also be a valuable influence upon the project under review. A total post-audit may include interim report on the commissioning and implementation stages of a project and should include a final report. This is a very good point. This is a very good point. Here we need to differentiate between interim post-audit reports and the final post-audit report. A total post-audit may include interim reports on commissioning and implementation stages of a project and should include final report. In addition to interim reports, we need to issue a final report covering all aspects of the project. To carry out any of these stages, the auditors must be able to establish what was expected and what actually happened over all stages of the project's life. In addition to the previous 3 questions, there are some general points that must be taken into consideration when we design post-completion auditing system. In addition to the previous 3 questions, when we design post-completion auditing system, there are a number of general points must be considered within the organization. The first point here is top management support. Top management support. So, to implement, to design a post-completion audit system, we need to have top management support. It's like a sponsor. Top management will be the sponsor for the system of post-completion auditing. Effective results can be achieved from project audits only if top management provides the necessary support and commits the necessary resources to the activity. Of course, top management has to commit the necessary resources to the activity. Auditors must be provided with sufficient authority to gain access to any information they require and to call for corrective action where appropriate. Auditors must be provided with sufficient authority. From who? From top management, to gain access to any information they require and to call for corrective action where appropriate. The second point is related to training. The audit team and those directly involved in the project must be provided with sufficient training to permit them to undertake the rules in an integrated fashion. It's clear here. Training is an important point. Training for who? For the post-audit team. The post-audit team and those directly involved in the project must be provided with sufficient training. This can be facilitated by manuals of practice outlining specific responsibility of review team members. Third point is attribution of mistakes. Very good point. The audit must be seen as the opportunity to learn valuable lessons for the future, not an occasion for dwelling on the past. The attribution of mistakes is necessary, but care must be taken to avoid blaming the innocent. So, post-audit must concentrate on learning valuable lessons for the future and not an occasion for dwelling on the past. Not to blame innocent people. You must take care. The fourth point, the importance of a strategic orientation to audit. The importance of a strategic orientation to audit. This reinforces the previous point concerning the focus of the audit upon lessons for the future. Too much detailed attention. Very clear. Too much detailed attention to short-term financial matters may serve merely to miss the point of the whole audit. So we need to focus on upon lessons for the future, not concentrate too much attention to short-term financial matters may serve merely to miss the point of the whole audit. Attention should be paid to assessing whether strategic objectives of the project, such as the attainment of a certain market share, were achieved. We need to know if the main point, the strategic orientation, the strategic objectives of the project is achieved or not. We must concentrate on strategic objectives of the project. No more attention on short-term financial matters. The last point, communication of results. If lessons are to be learned, the results of audits must be documented and communicated to those involved with the project and must be made available to those currently undertaking similar projects. So, we did mention above that post-audit team has to issue interim post-audit reports and a final report. This report means documentation. The result of audit must be documented by issuing interim post-audit reports and a final post-audit report, and communicated to those involved with the project, and must be made available to those currently undertaking similar projects. Many thanks to you.